and we are meeting the best minds in India today to discuss how it is a way forward. My challenge before handing over to Sumit, I requested my best team leader, Iti Gupta, to give me 1 minute. We heard from Mr. Vyas recently, who is a chief of CMI, and he challenged that there are two areas of great concern to India if India economic power have to move on. One is the high-tech investment, especially in the areas of 5G, which we will discuss today. And second is the low skill, large employment of low skill people. So at least we are addressing the upper side today. And my request would be that we have to challenge the government to take the decision to move forward. And we have been told that we have submitted a paper for 20,000 crore to the PSA office. And the issue with the government is that we have to make them move along with the industry so that we can make the components, the 5G, the entire infrastructure made in India and export, not only use in India, but export also entire the world. And we have full appetite and full skill. So with this, I'll hand over to the best leaders. Sumit, please take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirankar. Welcome all. It's my privilege to bring this session to you. Before that, let me set a bit of background to this session. Many of us of late with this recent spurt in talks on 5G have been wondering, is 5G just another G? Many of us ponder what 5G can bring, which was different from its predecessors like 4G. It is being said that impact of 5G will be far more than previous technologies, which will help us realize the potential of a fully connected world. 5G with its promised ultra reliable, low latency, higher speeds is going to unlock unexplored horizons. All the promised breakthrough work areas like telemedicine, smart cities, manufacturing, which kicked off in 4G, will actually come to life and will have a mass adoption with 5G. We at TechChem have been seeing rapid proliferation of 5G in markets such as Japan, Korea, Australia. And it is with this context that we have assembled in this session to explore and discuss how is 5G going to impact us and how we can unlock it. Particularly, how the power of 5G will create positive social and economic impacts in India and kickstart the innovation with the very much needed industry academic synergies. And as Nirankar was alluding to, through this discussion with leading voices in industry and academia, which I'm going to introduce in a short while, we will try to build a narrative around 5G deployment, which will cover key aspects how 5G will be proliferated into India to realize its scale. So let me quickly introduce my esteemed panelists today. We have well-known names on panel which need no introduction, but still for the uninitiated, let me formally introduce. So let me welcome first panelist, Mr. Himanshu Kapania. He is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore and BIT Mesra, is the former managing director of Idea Cellular, which is now VIL, post its merger. Mr. Kaparia has over 36 years of work experience, primarily in management, technology, operations, with deep understanding of Indian consumer, Indian telecom market, and society as such. I think his trust with the Indian telecom industry is, I think, more than 2 decades old, and he has been a key contributor to the exponential growth of the sector while assisting Indian government in formulating various mobile policies and regulations. And lastly, during his tenure as an MD of Idea Cellular, he steered Idea from being just a voice-only mobile operator to an integrated communication service provider, building digital infrastructure across all the technologies, latest being 4G. And I think under his leadership, Idea grew manifold in terms of revenue and subs. So as you can see, Mr. Kapania will be apt to provide industry view on that topic on 5G. Moving on, our next esteemed guest is Mr. Arun Karna. He is Executive Director of AT&T Global Network Services India Limited, summarized as AGNSI. He is an experienced business leader with more than 29 years of experience in telecom and IT industry. He has been with AT&T, one of the pioneers in any new technology, including 5G, for more than 18 years, of which he is now the Executive Director. His responsibilities include overseeing AT&T sales, customer engagement throughout the country. He has helped in reinforcing AT&T brand through speaking on public forums in India. And so in this public forum today, he is the perfect industry voice to understand what were the challenges in other markets and how were they handled. Last but not the least, Professor Abhay Karandikar. I think he's a well-known name also. Professor Krandikar is currently the director of IIT Kanpur. He has been Dean Faculty Affairs and Institute Chair Professor in the Department of Electric Engineering at IIT Bombay. He has been instrumental in driving many path-breaking technologies and has been at the forefront of several initiatives, both at the institute and the national level. He is the founding member and chairman of TSDSI, which is India's standard body for telecom. And he has also served as a coordinator of Tata Teleservices IIT, Bombay Center of Excellence, and National Center of Excellence in Technology and Internal Security. Professor Karandikar's current interests include frugal 5G and rural broadband, device-to-device communication, SDN, which is software-defined networking, latest state-of-the-art network function virtualization, 5G core network, including quality of services and resource allocation in wireline and wireless networks. His large research comprises of research engineers, scientists, scholars, and senior managers, and they have developed several path technologies such as Linux-based MPLS router. I think he has 20 plus patents to his credit, and he has contributed immensely to various bodies such as CGPP and IEEE. So again, he is precisely the go-to person to understand academia perspective on this very important topic. So let me now go to our panelists to open the session and maybe in 4 to 5 minutes give their view on the agenda. And I will repeat the agenda again, which is the core of our discussion today: how the power of 5G will create positive socio-economic impact in India and kickstart the innovation of through industry academic synergies. So may I request Mr. Himanshu Kapania to start the session, and maybe for 4-5 minutes, then I will go to each one of the other participants for the session. Thank you, Mr. Kapania. If you can start.
Thank you, Sumit. And I'm really honored to be part of today's session amongst August audience. AT&T was our joint venture partner, and happy to have Arun along with us on the panel. And I've been so much in awe with the work Abhay has been doing, and looking forward to hear from him. Secondly, I wish all the audience in this pandemic time is safe and fit, and following all the norms that have been prescribed. We are quite hopeful that this pandemic will pass through. But digital has been the way forward, which has allowed us to be able to stay alive, live our lives in the last 1.5 years, especially during these COVID times. But before we talk about more about the nature of work that has happened during COVID times, let's just have a quick look of India's position on the adoption of internet services. Last 4 years, India has risen from amongst the lowest ranked broadband penetration countries to become the numero uno nation globally in terms of data consumption, which is presently at level of 12 gigabytes per user, highest in the world. India is now also the second largest mobile broadband country after China, with more than 750 million active broadband users consuming daily over 300 petabytes per day. As I mentioned, we all have witnessed during these pandemic times the way the digital revolution has allowed our lives to go on in spite of multiple lockdowns. As users who are now spending more time at home, either working from home using Zoom, WebEx, Team, or enjoying entertainment on OTT platforms like Netflix or Hotstar, or spending time on your social media like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or our time spent online has increased multifold. I understand that for all of us who are spending about 2 to 3 hours online, the time has increased to 8 to 10 hours or even more. To add to this, there are currently over 300 million children, both in school and colleges, who are not able to attend physical schools, are relying on online classes for their education. Similar developments can be seen in sectors which were far away from digital, like health, banking, shopping, and many more. As these trends strengthen, Indian data consumption, as per our internal study, is likely to grow up by 3 times from a current level of 12 gigabyte per active broadband user to a level of 30 gigabyte per user, I think in the next 3 to 4 year time period. But it is not only the consumption per user, but also the number of digital consumers are expected to go up from a current level of 750 million to over 1.2 billion. This means a significant expansion in mobile broadband capacities as well as faster speeds is the order of the day. Since wired broadband penetration continues to be low and unlikely to be able to satiate the demand of Indian consumers, wireless broadband will have to be made ready to serve this massive demand. It is thus inevitable that the 2G, 3G network will close and existing 4G network will be incapable to handle this large demand, which will rise to levels of 2,400 petabytes per day from a current level of 300 to 400 petabytes a day. And that is the reason the next gen mobile technology 5G needs to be rolled out. But as Sumit correctly pointed out, is 5G just about technology upgrade or is it a generational change? So what is it that 5G offers? I've listed down 5 critical components. Number one, speeds up to 10 gigabits per second, latency less than 5 milliseconds, capacities of 10 terabytes per second in per square kilometers, ability to be able to handle 1 million devices per square kilometers, significantly higher than that of 4G, and energy consumptions almost at 10% level of 4G. It is for this reason that 5G is going to be a significant generational change for broadband technology. And its 3 broad applications are going to be in major demand going forward. One of the applications I've already talked about, and it's known as enhanced mobile broadband or EMBB, which will be deployed for consumer applications, especially demanding higher bandwidth. But the other 2 interesting applications, one, ultra reliable low latency communication. In short, URLLC will be used for applications requiring high reliability, low latency. And number 3, massive machine type communication network that will connect billions of low powered sensors or IoT device. That's why 5G is known not only going to allow access to 9 billion people on this globe to access the internet, but 100 billion devices will get connected on 5G. And it is estimated once 5G is in full flow in India, 10 billion out of the 100 billion global devices will be in India itself. That's why while eMPV will answer Indian consumers' need for higher speeds and larger capacities, URLLC and MMTC will serve the next phase of enterprise requirement. So I turn my attention from consumer side to the enterprise domain. And the enterprise domain is going to become extremely exciting, not only with the arrival of 5G, but also arrival of what is known as converging exponential technologies. Technologies, all of us are waiting for its arrival. Technologies like artificial intelligence, cloud and edge computing, robotics, virtual and augmented reality, Internet of Things, blockchain, big data, 3D printing, and many more innovations. None of them can give its full potential unless the backbone that is provided will be the 5G. Just like electricity was the fuel behind second industrial revolution, internet and wireless broadband connectivity has been fueling the adoption of all these latest technology, and it will usher us into a completely new world, the exciting new world of fourth industrial revolution. All of this sounds like a dream come true, but we need to be brought to reality. For 5G to become a reality in India, telecom sectors needs 10 lakh crores or slightly more for establishing brand new 5G infrastructure. And I believe as a member of a telecom fraternity, India is facing a paradoxical situation where the telecom service providers are facing an existential crisis, whereas consumers, government, academicians, media at large is waiting for the telecom operators to lay this infrastructure. And surprisingly, while the profitability plummets for the telecom operators, the services that ride on this infrastructure continues to flourish. So it is the valuation of digital and high-tech companies like FANG, whose services ride on mobile networks, has risen by 50x times during the last 10 years. I believe this model, which has been operating in the last 5 to 7 years, is unsustainable, and country needs to encourage a collaborative play between digital infrastructure and high-tech service sectors so that we are able to come to a win-win solution. I want to give you an example of why this becomes even more pertinent in the space when 5G is going to launch and application is going to be enterprise. I'm going to take an example of the transformation which is happening in the transport sector. 5G, I believe, is be the key requirement for the transport sector to move from a current model to an autonomous cars model. 5 will provide the dedicated slice network with ultra reliable low latency features to enable low latency communication as well as artificial intelligence in all autonomous cars for it to be able to communicate between car to car and car to the signal. And this will provide a completely smooth ride for the passenger with or without driver, as well as safety levels unknown before at absolutely no accident free or accident free environment. As the transport sector upgrades itself from a fuel guzzling, self driven model to highly efficient, low running cost 100% safe model, Indian consumers' transportation experience will upgrade multifold. Our few questions will need to be answered. How to price a consumer transport for the superior services driven on a converged 5G with an AI and EV model? B, how to make revenue sharing work between auto sector and a telecom sector, because no more the launches is going to be domain of one sector, it is going to be convergence of multiple sectors so that all of them becomes partner in growth. Similar questions apply not only for transport sector, but to all economic sectors who are going to adopt the next phase of digitization, whether it is in health, education, shopping, manufacturing, energy, banking, and insurance. Unless there's clarity on the revenue model, the next round of investment needed for 5G is unlikely to come. Somebody would say, I'm too bearish. But if 5G has to transform the lives of Indians, the question of revenue also needs to be addressed and solved. We have academics in our fold. I'm looking forward to Professor Abey's talk, and I'm also looking forward to IITs and other research institutes spearhead the induction of latest technology. But besides the support that we'll get on this technology, we also need attention of policymakers, economists to develop a new innovative model of revenue share between telecom sector, middleware application sector, and benefiting sectors like transport, healthcare, education, entertainment, industry automation, etc. To summarize, in the Indian context, 5G can be a key enabler for achieving government's digital agenda. How to drive sustainable long-term benefits of 5G adoption, we need a holistic approach and policies to nurture an ecosystem that supports collaborative and creates a win-win solution for all stakeholders. India's telecom sector needs a definite plan drawn out of global experience to ride on this new wave of 5G, where enterprise and related digital verticals are at the center of technology-led adoption. So as 5G use cases span across industry verticals, it is important to review the regulatory and monetization framework across industry verticals to ensure there is no conflict and can hinder the offtake of 5G technologies. Then only Sumit's topic that how 5G is going to create a social transformation will turn into a reality. Thank you, and back to Sumit.
Thank you, Mr. Kapania. That's a huge insight. I mean, certain statistics are mind-boggling. I mean, 12 GB per day to 30 GB per day, 300 petabytes to 2400 petabytes. I think we need 5G. I mean, nobody can push this thing that how critical 5G is for us. Thank you, thank you. May I now go to academia view here, Professor Abhay Randikar. If he can come in and talk us to about 4 or 5 minutes on this topic, and let us know what he thinks and how he thinks 5G will work on this.
Thank you, Sumit. I think Himanshu Kapania has very well articulated, the paradigm shift that 5G is going to bring in. And as he mentioned, since in India, cell phones are the primary broadband access mechanism, because we don't have the ubiquitous availability of fiber to the home, the enhanced mobile broadband is going to be an important use case in the context of India, because most of the people are really going to use 5G just like as a good alternative to a fixed broadband access networks, where the customer experience will be significantly enhanced, as was brought out by Himanshu. But there are other applications as well, and 5G and beyond technologies are now going to touch almost every key economic vertical, whether it is retail or banking or financial sectors or agriculture or transportation, health, e-health, e-education are going to become increasingly important now, during post-COVID time. So 5G and beyond technologies are going to be really the key driver for the all-pervasive digital world that is going to touch each vertical. Now, this means, that it poses several challenges. I think Himanshu touched upon that, but I will briefly mention few of the challenges that are really important. One is, of course, in order to have a widespread deployment of 5G in the country, the telecom operators, which Himanshu has been leading for a long time, needs, the availability of adequate amount of spectrum. See, wireless communication is one technology for which the radio resource is an important and the most important resource. So therefore, it needs adequate amount of spectrum. 5G works in different frequency bands. It works in lower frequency band like sub 1 gigahertz. We need that frequency band also in India to provide a wider coverage. For example, if you want to go to the rural areas and far-flung areas, we need spectrum which will have the better propagation characteristics. So we need sub-gigahertz spectrum. We need spectrum which can also serve in the cities, and also the 3 gigahertz spectrum, the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum is also important. And then for getting the most out of the 5G in terms of very high throughput and dense deployment, we need the millimeter wave spectrum as well. So we really need spectrum availability in all the three bands, the lower band, the mid band, and the millimeter wave band. And not only we need spectrum in all the three bands, we need adequate amount of spectrum. In fact, according to an estimate, if you want the spectrum in the mid band, perhaps minimum 100 megahertz per operator is needed to talk about what the enhanced mobile broadband which Himanshu has been talking, and what kind of speeds that you just mentioned. So I think this is sort of one important aspect. The second important aspect is not only we need the spectrum, we need it to price it at an adequate price point, because in order to have a broadband proliferation of across every nook and corner of the country, we have to make this technology affordable. And I mean, that is really have been one of our research area, that how to make this communications technology as a primary affordable broadband access technology. And there are many aspects of making the technology affordable. The network deployment is of course one, the spectrum cost is another, the device cost is third, and then availability of several applications as use cases in an easy and flexible manner is also another way in which the technology can be made affordable. The other aspect which I would like to say is that we also need to have, in the today's world, of a control of the technology in some sense. So that means, India really needs to develop an ecosystem for telecom product development in the country. This may be now easier because, in 5G and beyond technology, there is now an increased softwareization of the networks. Most of the technology of the 5G is going to be implemented by using softwares on of the commercially available off-the-shelf hardwares. The specialized hardwares may be in the RF front end and so on, but the rest of the baseband processing and the other things can all be done in the softwares, and therefore India has a huge opportunity for leapfrogging directly to the development of 5G and beyond technology. Now, as you know, that the wireless communications industry is heavily driven by innovations, patents, and global standardizations. We need standardizations because standardizations ensures interoperability of the equipments, and therefore it is important that we have our stake there, and it is therefore essential for us to contribute to the global standards bodies and take Indian requirements and Indian IPRs into these standards bodies. It is never before it has been so easier, because as you mentioned in my introduction, we have now TSDSI, which is an organizational partner of 3GPP. So we can make contributions as the TSDSI member in 3GPP. The technology is moving towards increased softwareizations. Technologies such as software-defined networking, network function virtualizations are coming to the fore, and India has an inherent strength in the software development, and we have always been, one of the largest market, and even before now, with the increased digitalizations, we are becoming a very strong telecom market. So all right pieces are available in order for us to really develop an ecosystem of indigenous product development. And in this context, I think there is a lot of role which industry academia partnership I think can play. PAN IIT consortium is already developing components of the 5G testbed, which can be hived off as the component which can be commercialized by the startups. And I think the government really needs to give a thrust to the startups and the SMEs, MSME for the core product development activities also. Finally, I would say that there are certain issues in terms of the rollout. I talked about one aspect of the spectrum, but there is also another aspect of backhaul. The mobile backhaul, because finally when on the access networks, the throughput and the speed increases, that data actually needs to be backhauled to the core networks. So while there is a need for policies which will enable for the operators to deploy the fiber, we also need to see the wireless backhauls can be used either in the E bands or V bands, and therefore the spectrum for backhaul is also an important considerations for the faster deployment of the 5G, because the initial deployments, since we don't have the ubiquitous availability of the fiber, we will have to depend upon the wireless backhaul, and then if you have to depend upon the wireless backhaul, we need sufficient capacity on the backhaul networks also in order to carry the traffic which has been generated through all these, the broadband access devices, which Himanshu talked of, and the enhanced mobile broadband use cases. So obviously, we need some thought on what kind of backhaul networks that we want to create in order to provide a good user experience. So that also is an aspect that one needs to sort of think through. I believe, finally, I would like to say that a stronger academia industry partnerships along with the ecosystem of startups and some innovations, both in terms of technology and also in terms of applications and use cases, can really put us ahead of the technology players in the world. And this is an opportunity, and I think we should really grab this opportunity. And I believe that the government should come forward to enable this by several regulatory and policy mechanisms, be it the availability of the spectrum, the backhaul, the fiber deployment issues, and the revenue sharing agreement which Himanshu talked of between the operators and the application service providers. So I think that's all. I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. I mean, again, you touched a few key aspects of 5G. I especially like the point of affordable network deployment, affordable spectrum cost, affordable device cost, and availability of affordable applications. I think these are 4 key points which will drive the 5G growth. Moving on, I think Mr. Arun Karna, I mean, you come from AT&T background and all those, and we would like to hear your view on what, I mean, Himanshu and Mr. Himanshu and Professor Abe has been alluding to. So how do you think, what are your views? We are looking forward to hear about them.
Sure, and thank you so much, Sumit. And good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel extremely honored and privileged to be speaking with you from this platform today, along with such eminent leaders. And the problem coming at the back of such eminent leaders while speaking is, you are left wondering what more can I add to the discussion without plainly repeating oneself. So let me give it a try though. So, I quite agree with what's been said by both Himanshu ji and Abhay ji, that 5G can potentially be the game changer for India. It can be the answer to unlock India's potential in reaching the next phase of growth and realizing the digital India vision, so to speak. Of course, the ultra fast speed, the high bandwidth, the low latency, these are all features of 5G which are expected to accelerate the digital transformation of the country. And in terms of Himanshu ji talked about the coming wave. Right now, and I'm citing the GSMA intelligence forecast here, 5G connections in India expected to reach 6% of the total population by 2025 and 93% by 2040. That's a huge jump, and it's looking too far out into the future. But one would assume that would be true. But as the experts, both Himanshu ji and Abhay ji pointed out here, for that to happen, a lot of the tea leaves have to fall perfectly into the teacup. And a lot of things have to come together in a perfect storm to happen. And some of those pointers were given out, sustainable pricing of spectrum, availability of spectrum, stable policy and regulatory regime. And I would add to that, innovative and relevant use cases. I think relevant use cases when it comes to India, it would be one of the keys of success. We just can't copy paste and you just look at other economies and say, hey, that use case worked there, so let me try it here. I don't think that would be the way for India to go. We have always been unique. We've always been a different market. So we have to pick and choose where we want to go. So in terms of sectors, again, Himanshu ji had pointed out that practically every sector could benefit. Be it agriculture, automotive, manufacturing, healthcare, energy utilities, media entertainment, they're all likely to be potential users, and the use cases may just be limited by our imaginations. But again, pick and choose the right battles. Now, again, it was said, Himanshu ji said that typically in India, we are consuming 12 gigabytes data per month per user on an average. And what's happening here is the current broadband technology is really finding it hard to keep pace with that. And I think that would be possibly the first, advantage of injecting 5G is to come in and fill that gap. The gap which is currently existing with the 4G LTE technology because of the rising per user usage. And it is given that compared to previous technologies, 5G has the capability to open new service dimensions by accelerating digitization, enable new revenue streams, bring forth new business models, and generally boost the industrial efficiency across verticals. That's a given. Now, I come from the enterprise space, and here I would like to relate to our own experience in the US and also some of the information that I've gleaned reading the analyst reports from Europe, especially global data. And the experience has been that the early deployments of 5G for business use cases have actually leveraged dedicated private networks. And when it comes to public networks, very few enterprise services have been launched thus far. Now, it was only in sort of mid 2020 that operators started to try and leverage public 5G networks to offer some of the functionality of a private network. So basically providing coverage and bandwidth guarantees for enterprises where Wi-Fi or standard 5G access wasn't good enough. And they did by deploying additional antennae and localized increased capacity in those specific areas. Now what operators are trying to do is they want to support application priority over the public 5G network, even when there is heavy data traffic, because they're seeing an opportunity to offer a premium subscription service for mobile use cases such as logistics, transportation, or even public safety. So that's been the sort of pivot that they're trying to make. And it is expected that in 2021 and forward, those operators will launch private network-like features over public network offerings, basically targeted at the enterprise-grade features and functionality in order to demonstrate what 5G can do for current business requirements, but especially as a complement to private networks. So I would say thematically speaking, that would be the way for India to go as well. Time would tell, of course. But let me come in and share some of the prominent use cases which we have sort of helped deploy in the US. So first one I would cite as the healthcare segment. So as healthcare organizations innovate themselves and they try and digitize their operations, the amount of data usage, the security aspect of that data, and the sort of transferability of that huge amount of data, that's beginning to increase. And this is where the power of 5G comes into play. 5G will eventually help hospitals and the whole healthcare ecosystem, not just hospitals, but the healthcare works as an ecosystem. It will help with the transmission of those large files, the expansion of telemedicine, and the utilization of artificial intelligence. It will also help medical professionals to be able to see, actually see better and interact with more patients virtually due to the lower latency and higher reliable nature of the technology itself. So in that context, we actually worked with a Chicago-based university medical center and the ecosystem of healthcare providers, including hospitals, to bring forth the first mobile 5G enabled hospital trials in the United States. And this is being tested, and what will happen is the clinically integrated network of healthcare providers and hospitals in Chicago, they will be able to take advantage of the 5G network and what we call multi-access edge computing. So, 5G technology always works in combination with other technologies. And, one of the most prominent combinations is 5G and multi-access edge computing. We know that edge computing is basically a cloud-based IT service environment which concentrates computing power and analytics right at the edge of the network where that power is really required. That's where the real action is taking place. And this will enable the ecosystem to really bring forth and bring life some of those use cases which were not earlier possible, and that would improve the overall the ideas to improve human care, patient experience. That is what will be enabled by the 5G technology. The other quick example I would give is in the manufacturing space. With Industry 4.0 adoption going up, the advanced manufacturing facilities, we all know that they are starting to use a lot of automated processes and robotic equipment throughout their production process. And that brings in 5G and related technologies that can really help large scale, near real time monitoring and proactive maintenance of factory automation equipment, helping to improve production generally. So for example, an automated material handling system, which is equipped with IoT sensors and 4K wireless cameras, it can demonstrate remote monitoring of factory automation equipment. This is possible with 5G. And you could use 5G to equip the whole system with a full suite of devices to collect important data on acceleration, position, temperature, humidity, gas flow rates, what have you. And this also sort of falls on the safety aspect. Safety could get a boost on 5G's lower latency, and this could enable critical data to get to emergency respondents, almost in zero time. So in this case, we actually worked with a large semiconductor manufacturer utilizing a combination of connectivity technology. So 5G, LTE, Wi-Fi, optimal combinations. And now they're enjoying enhanced capacity throughput, lower latencies, which were previously not achievable. And that enables them to collect data from thousands of machines. And by adding 5G into the mix, particularly using the millimeter wave spectrum, that enhances how the company collects data at scale, improves process flexibility by eliminating wires. So you eliminate the wire there, and it supports data processing, data handling in real time. So basically, the increased bandwidth, reduced latency, it supports efficiencies, it supports performance on the production floor. Intelligent sensors and compute power at the edge help predict issues before they happen, and that's how the use case is enabled. So just a few quick use case examples, and with that, back to you, Sumit.
Mr. Arun, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a perfect summary to what Mr. Kapania and Professor Abe had to say. And I think you were underestimating when you said what I have to say. It's a lot of say, and I think I can't get enough of what all you three have to say about it. But I think coming back, we have around 15 minutes left. I would like to ask pinpointed questions to all of you, all three of you. I mean, maybe I can start with Mr. Kapania. He talked about that 5G need to be a mass rollout thing. I think Professor Abe also alluded to it, that since we are not much into FTTX, mobile would be the ubiquitous way to do that. So Mr. Kapania, I mean, if we have to specifically talk about, what are the one or two key challenges which will enable rolling out mass 5G technology, and how do you think we can do that? If you can share your thoughts on that, just one or two key areas which will help us to mass roll out 5G in India. Mr. Kapania, you are on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. The first challenge is that the challenge of rolling out 5G in one or two can't summarize in one or two phases. So we obviously need a little more list data that's required, but I will try to keep it as short as possible. As has been evident from our discussion, 5G will be a key enabler for achieving government's digital agenda, and is going to play a pivotal role in strengthening our economy and empowering Indian population. So given the potential of a robust and ubiquitous 5G network, the single most important prerequisite is to ensure that we have a nationwide coverage. This will require huge investments, up to 10 lakh crores, both in network infrastructure and spectrum, which is currently priced the way it has been offered. The latest round of spectrum auction in March 21 witnessed telecom operators pumping in 78,000 crores for 4G spectrum. However, with heavy debt burden, abysmally low data rates due to brutal competition, profitability of the sector is at stake, and there is very little surplus the telecom operators have for making next round of 10 lakh crores. I like to remind 2015 to 2020, close to 8 to 9 lakh crores has been spent by telecom operators to lay out the 4G network. And yet the returns of that has not been arrived. So hence, given this as a basic fact, we need to add to derive that there is a need for a ubiquitous 5G network. There is a challenge of availability of investment, and we have to ensure that whatever 5G is launched, it is sustainable and it provides full long-term benefits. We need a holistic approach in policy which will nurture an ecosystem that supports collaboration, creates win-win solution for all stakeholders. By the benefit of early 5G launch to the country's economy is clearly evident. The paradoxical situation is that government, media, public is only looking at Indian mobile operators to lead the way for 5G deployment. Maybe there is another alternative we should look at. But the fact today is that the number of serious early strategic investors have already exited India, and there is a looming extinction crisis threatening 3+1 market structure, and we may end up in a monopoly situation. What happens if the country goes into monopoly situation? This is not the topic of discussion today. So, if important question is, if India wishes to capture the significant economic value of US $1 trillion out of the $5 trillion which our Prime Minister envisions to achieve a size of Indian economy by 2025, digital can provide it, and that then digital can provide it, provided the country has a policy which is well articulated and it is driven on a basis of fair and equitable sharing among multiple stakeholders. I've already talked about it, the share between telecom operators, digital intermediaries, startups, government, and corporate sector. It cannot be that there are two out of the three players are happy and one of the players is there. But I think we've talked among of that. Now, what are the other topics that needs to be quickly resolved for 5G to become a reality? I'm going to list down 5. Number 1, improve the current health of telecom sector. I will ensure 3+1 competitive structure. So the cost-related action with the government has been promising, but has not acted on, was to bring down applicable taxes as committed in the National Digital Communication Policy NDCP of 2018, modify the legacy spectrum auction terms, and reasonable 5G spectrum band auction, which Professor had alluded to. Second is develop mechanism to improve revenue realization of the operators. I've talked about the revenue share, but there's the other important thing is flow pricing. The competitive model does not allow sufficient surplus, quite contrary to what example AT&T Arun was giving us for AT&T, where sufficient surplus exists in those countries there. So this is important for us to look at that. Third, government needs to allocate digital funds to a combination of teams drawn from companies across telecom, solution providers, enterprise verticals like healthcare, manufacturing, automobile, education. For what Arun mentioned, what Professor mentioned, to build relevant and important use cases, as well as to be able to build solutions where a fair charging mechanism can be built, because the applications are no more going to be in a model that we are used to of a single enterprise or a single vertical trying to auger all the monetization. It is going to be in a collaborative multi-sector approach, and that's why a revenue share mechanism had to build. Then provide incentives and tax benefits to companies making, this is going to be a large R&D investments on digital technology, specifically at India-specific use cases. There is a lot of work that needs to be done on agriculture, on energy, and those use cases we have to develop on logistics, or also about in the e-commerce space, along with a mechanism by which physical and e-commerce sales can coexist. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. The other something which is very critical, and Professor talked about it, it is the backhaul. So we need to have a fresh forward-looking policy on fiber sharing. India doesn't have dearth of fiber. This is a very surprising, but it is a real fact. India has 15 million kilometers of fiber. However, it remains fragmented because it is privately owned by 4 or 5 players. Why is it that we have shortage of fibers but enough towers? Just because independent tower companies help operators or give mobile coverage, and we are not worried about the ubiquitous coverage happen because there are towers available, but fiber doesn't exist. So India needs two independent fiber companies who can roll out unified fiber network. First and foremost, these fragmented fibers can all be brought together, and operators can access through an OpEx-based model. A reasonable guaranteed ROI for a fiber company will draw large interest, as well as global investors will come into it, and then there'll be no dearth of fiber in this country. The next important topic is 5G technology is going to be discontinuous. Features like network function virtualization, software-defined network, cloud RAN, IIT professors know much more than I can talk about this what technology is, but these are all disruptive technology. They will seriously impact our current workforce. So there is going to be a significant demand for upskilling, newer competencies, retraining, newer profile of younger manpower. Government needs to mandate inclusion of these latest technologies like AI, big data, robotics, 5G to mainstream independent courses in top institutes across the nation. We also need to plan to increase the number of institutes which provide technical education. We need to retrain all our software engineers, all our telecom engineers to be able to upskill into new technology. This is, don't undermine the effort that is required for this to be happen. And you can't have a 5G services there. Hence, the summary is a country needs a well-articulated vision on how to use 5G to power digital economic growth. This will result in business value addition within India for investing firms, create sustainable market for highly skilled workforce, generate positive business opportunity for Indian corporate sectors, emerging MSMEs, as well as young startups. So this is a series of activities. Sorry, it's not one or two activities. There's a series of activities that needs to be done. Back to you, Sumit.
Absolutely, Mr. Kapani. I think you talked about competitive environment, fair charging mechanism. I think these are important aspects which we need to consider for 5G. I think a lot of governments around the world are trying to innovate. Malaysia has said that they will not let operators roll out the 5G. They will roll out themselves. They have carved out a company called DNB, Digital National Bharat, if you have been following it. So I think we need to be innovative here, whether it is government or others, and see that how we can have a sustainable 5G model. We are at the top of hour. We have around 3 minutes left. I will take a quick bite from both Mr. Arun and Professor Abe. I think all of us talked about reskilling. I think we talked about how it is becoming totally softwareized. I mean, the technologies like virtualization, containerization, they are totally different from the way physical network functions were operating in 4G. So I think quick bites from both of you, Professor, how government, I mean, Mr. Kapania alluded to it, but how government can enable that skilling so that we have this manpower, this skill force as soon as possible. And to end, Mr. Arun, how AT&T adapted that challenge when their networks were transforming to 4G to 5G, how their existing manpower was reskilled to take care of these two aspects. I mean, I know time is less, you have a lot to say, but if you can summarize in a minute each, I'm not sure how is it possible or not, but I will be very thankful if you can do that.
I'll just take 1 minute. I think I think this is an important point that we have to upskill in the future technologies. And fortunately, I think it is possible in India because we have always had a strength in the software skills. So I believe it is possible, and there is a need to sort of launch a concerted program in a mission mode, and it can be done. And second aspect, as I mentioned, that since the 5G technology is going to be the bedrock of all pervasive digital connectivity, it is important that we pay attention to develop the indigenous ecosystem in the country. So that is also, I think, another important point. And both these points, I think, upskilling and innovations need mission mode efforts in terms of joint R&D and joint projects on the skilling.
Thank you, Professor. And Mr. Arun?
All right, thanks, Sumit. I'll try and talk very fast. So you're right that 5G means software-defined networks, network function virtualization, network slicing, and it is a coming together of AI, ML, analytics, automation, in addition to radio engineering. So this called for a huge skills pivot in the workforce, right from design and implementation of the 5G air interface, radio access network, and the operation of the whole 5G system from an end-to-end perspective for lifecycle management. Now, thankfully, with AT&T, we have our own labs and our own innovation foundry. So there was no dearth of inherent knowledge on the subject. But to upskill the workforce at scale, it meant having to collaborate with academia very, very deeply. And thankfully, again, there is no dearth of research-based technical universities in the US. So deep collaboration with them led to the development first of what I would call contextual learning programs and material, which then got disseminated through AT&T's own virtual university and learning platforms, both which are a combination of virtual and in-person training as well, and on-field training as well. So, of course, it was very vital to collaborate at a very deep level with research-based academia, so that when you put 2 and 2 together, there's a multiplier effect. So it's 2 and 2, but the multiplier becomes a 20. That was the effect, and that was the only way to go, because the sheer volume, the sheer scale of the pivot, and that too in very quick time, very, very quick time. So you had to have that kind of collaboration. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Arun. I wish it could have been a 2-hour session. There's a lot to hear, a lot to learn, and a lot to absorb. I think it's amazing for me personally, I think, to hear all three of you. And I hope our listeners and participants on this session have taken key points, and they can, through their own channels, try to disseminate this information and try to influence in whatever way they can. I think thanks to all three of you. Back to Iti or Nirankar or Mr. Jagdish Mitra to have some concluding remarks before we end this session.
No, I think, Sumit, it's been an extremely exhilarating conversation. I think Professor Karandikar, Mr. Kapania, no one needs to introduce them. He's been a doyen of the industry, and he's been someone that we've all looked up. I personally have also had and me and Nirankar, I think, have a different connection because we are from the same alma mater. So that's another added pride. And Arun, as you know, we are hugely connected from not just from a TechM perspective, but AT&T, from being the starting point of what Bell Labs did, and from where they are starting to come together, is the heart of technology and research and some of the amazing work that they've done globally. And Professor Karandikar's IIT team is absolutely a blazing unit. So we've talked to him, we know the work that they're doing on 5G. I think this aspect and conversation was more important because people can now start to realize, where people like you, Sumit, with the work that you guys are doing in Japan, that there is actual business value for enterprises to drive out of this. This is no longer an experiment level. It's moved from that experiment level to actual business benefits that people are driving. And that's the message that we at FICCI wanted businesses in India to realize.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is a perfect summary to the whole session. So, Iti, Nirankar, I mean, we would end this session, or do you have anything concluding to say here?
I think No, you can conclude the session. Thank you very much, all the panelists, and especially the leaders who spoke very well. My only submission is that I have wrote in the chat box also, the private sector, the startup, the academia are doing the best. The big question is the government. They need to move up to the expectation of the markets. That's a big concern.
Thank you. So that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Had
Thank
a
you.
good session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.